So now we're going to put on first glaze to give the tree some three-dimensionality. And I'm going to take this colour, which is violet, and it's a very deep pigment, so you don't need much paint at all on the palette at all. And then I'm going to take my brush, put lots of water with a tiny bit of paint. Okay, so lots and lots of water, but tiny bit of paint because it's very, very, very deeply pigmented. And I'm going to now start laying on my first glaze over the whole of the tree and making sure that as much of the pattern, as we've spent so much time putting it on, comes through. And excuse me, just pushing it down so that it comes through as much as possible. And take a brush again, dip it into the paint glaze and glaze it over. So if it goes over, just take your finger and get rid of it. Of course, you can use any colour that you like. I'm using purple, I've decided, because having looked at the whole painting, I thought I'd like to bring the purple back, because we started with the purple at in the distance. So I thought I'd like to bring the purple back into the painting to create a dialogue between the back and the front, so to speak. So a bit of conversation with the colour. So I'm going to put more down. And actually I'm going to take that up, keeping the colour coming through and the pattern coming through as much as possible. And of course you can use any colour you like for this glaze. Just keeping it as relatively uniform as it were, so that it isn't, because when this layer dries, I'm going to put in a darker layer on one side where the shade will be, and a highlight down the side of the tree to show that. And I'm also just taking away some of the paint here because this is the side where the light's coming from. But just keep it, that's too much paint, so I'm going to take a little brush and a dry brush, and so I'm going to pause the film for the moment while I finish this. And I've turned it round. Now I want to show you for the smaller branches, just take a very small brush and glaze over these smaller branches and twigs. Very little amount of paint, but equal amounts of water to paint, or perhaps even more water to paint, depending on the pigmentation of your paint. And just go over that. Just turning the canvas round so that I can reach those branches, and that's the beauty of painting small paintings. I'm a big fan of doing that. Painting small paintings is quite an intimate procedure between you and the image, and I like I say, I do love icons, painting of medieval sort of religious icons, and they were always quite often fairly small, painted by monks, and I like that feeling of intimacy between the painting and the artist. Of course, there's loads of room for great big paintings, and I've done loads of them. I used to be a muralist, so I'm quite adept at painting large, but since I've been selling online, I need to sell more, and I need to create, I needed to make smaller paintings for so many practical reasons. And one was obviously postage, shipping, and the amount of paintings I needed to sell or ship, because at some points they're pretty popular. Sometimes it's feast or famine, and these smaller paintings are more sellable. And storage, it's very practically easy to store. Otherwise I don't think I'd be able to move if I kept creating large paintings all the time. Then my studio would be, and my house would be full, and it already is. So now I have finished more or less the first glaze, the first layer. So turning it round. There. That's the first layer. I'm going to let that dry. Just put my brushes in the water. They haven't got much paint on them, so I don't need to take them for another wash, and set them on the side and let this layer dry.